Right, okay. Hello and welcome to the Blueprint Review Podcast. We are back. I've managed 2 episodes in a row. Yes, what a roll. So yeah, we are back again to talk about just random kind of loose conversation about films we have watched from a collection or not from the collection. We'll see. I kind of keep it pretty loose, but for me, I'm definitely trying to get through the backlog of stuff that I buy and don't watch. It's deeply disturbing how many of the discs, and that's a small portion of my collection, depressingly. I've probably not seen 3/4 of them. I think it's just deeply depressing. So yes, I'm trying to fix that by forcing myself to get a few watched and talk about them on the podcast. So that's what we are going to do today. And today I'm joined by Leon and Jay, fellow Blueprint Review writers.
Hello.
Hello. And we spoke to Leon last week about kind of introducing where he's come from, things like that. So we'll throw Jay into it now. Can you just give us a little background on how you got involved with Blueprint Review and what other kind of podcasting and blogging kind of shenanigans you get up to?
Sure. So before I knew of Blueprint Review existing, I started my own site called lifeversusfilm.com, which was basically the book 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, my kind of mission to go through that and a few other lists. It's like kind of a self-film education, because I've always liked film, but there was always, like everyone, these huge gaping holes in my film experience of like stuff I'd never heard of. You know, I think you'd probably go to most film fans and present them with a 1001 book, and they're like, oh, I'd probably seen most of that, and they flick through, and then they find they've seen half of it, and there's like 200 they've never heard of, because it's an odd collection of films. So my mission was to cross off 3 films every 4 days with a full review, and that no, I didn't happen. I'm about, at time of recording, I'm about 500 into it. There's a bunch of new releases since then, so there's actually like 1,200 films on the 1001 movies list if you add all the additions together. But I've been on about 500 for about 5 years. I kind of fell off of it a little while ago. I reviewed one film on it last year. I reviewed The Lighthouse. Nothing so far this year, but I'm getting there. One day I'll pick back up again. So in terms of like my unwatched, we'll get to that. So how I got to Blueprint Review, Life as a Film, I became a member of the LAM, the largest association of movie blogs. That's how I kind of found David, through being with both guests on the Lamcast. I think you sent out an email saying you're looking for guest writers on your site, and I was like, sure. I'll take some free discs for films, and I mainly, if there was 1001 movies film coming out that I hadn't acquired a disc of, I was like, I'll have that one, please, and I would review that. So entirely for personal gain, but the occasional schlocky horror film, and now it's evolved into I'll take any shark film going. Because whilst I don't do the 1001 movies list that much anymore, I do have a podcast, which is Deep Blue Sea, the podcast, where myself and my co-host Mark Hoffmeyer from Rotten Tomatoes and The Ringer and other places, we love Deep Blue Sea, the 1999 Rennie Harden shark-infested masterpiece, and we talked about it for 35 consecutive episodes, one chapter at a time, and then Deep Blue Sea 2 for 10 episodes, and Deep Blue Sea 3 for 11 episodes, and now we're just talking about any film that's similar to Deep Blue Sea, and we've had David on to talk about Lifeboat, because it's in the water, it counts. So there's some classic films on there, but a bunch of shark films. Shark films these days don't tend to be very good, but we'll still talk about them. As well. A trailer just got released for Under Paris, I think, which is
I saw that pop up.
French shark film with sharks in Paris. And you know, the film Shark in Venice is incredible.
That's an incredible title.
It's an incredible film. It's about sharks in Venice. It's basically a remake of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, but with sharks, and starring Stephen Baldwin and Scarlett Johansson's sister.
Yeah, I was almost like, oh, Scarlett Johansson, oh, sister.
Yeah, and there's one incredible scene in it where they're kind of walking through a market, like playing with a scarf or something, and you can tell when they were recording it, Stephen Baldwin thought you weren't going to hear his dialogue, and it was just going to have like music played over the back of it. But so he's saying things like, look at this thingy, and over there, a thing. And it's all just like replaceable dialogue that didn't get replaced and made it into the film. But it's a wonderful film. And so I have hopes for Under Paris, that it'll be the new Shark in Venice. But we'll see.
You never know. I can remember singing the praises of Ghost Shark recently on a podcast. I'm trying to remember which one it was. Yes, I do.
Ghost
I do
Shark
enjoy
is
that
a
film.
beautiful film, incredible film. Sharks can inhabit the rain.
Yes. And one of those slip and slide things.
Yeah,
That was the
and
best.
just a cup of coffee. There's a shark in a toilet. One of two films I've covered with a shark in a toilet. House Shark being the other one. House Shark, a very bad film.
Genius.
Yeah. But then, so that's one. I write for the Big Review maybe like a few times a year at this point because all the discs that I want, they just don't get sent. They disappear somehow, or like David claims them all before anyone gets the good ones. I think, as is his right as the dictator of the site. Yeah, so but I have a large collection of unseen DVDs, as do we all. Unfortunately, mine are kind of relegated to the attic, so it's not a constant reminder of this wall that behind everyone is the films you haven't seen yet. So they're up there. I don't know if I'm ever going to watch some of them, the ones that I bought for the 1001 list. But will I ever watch The Double Life of Veronique? Probably not. Will I own it for the next 40 years? Maybe.
I watched it for the first time like 4 days ago. It's so weird that you pointed that one out. I watched it 4 days ago and I didn't like it very much.
Great. That's the mistake I made with the 1001 list before kind of falling off of it. Is I watched all I'm in part of a club of people that have watched all of these films, and they said suggestions of these are the worst ones. Get these ones out of the way first. So I got all of the really bad ones out of the way, and then kind of stopped doing it. So I've watched Sarlo. I've crossed off Sarlo from my watch list.
Full of pomegranates.
Crossed it off. The one that's everyone loved in the new Sight and Sound list, Gene Dealman.
John Dealman,
a terrible film, an awful film.
I love it. I actually love John Dealman.
Okay, I appreciate the message. I think it's kind of well made for what it is, but the people that need to hear the message will never watch that film.
That's fair. That's fair.
I did like a Louis Buñuel weekend at one point because I really hate Louis Buñuel. I've just got like 9 films on the list. I'm just going to purge them with this terrible weekend. And I liked some of them. The Discreet Shadow and the Bourgeoisie is okay. But some of the more artistic stuff. I'm not really an art film guy. I like action films, I like sci-fi. I like films with sharks in them. So if the bloody the donkey film, I can't remember what the donkey film is called.
Julian Donkey Boy.
I was thinking
not Julian Donkey Boy.
No, is it not Mouchette? It's by the same guy though, isn't it? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Hazard Balthazar. Yes,
I like that.
If that was about a shark, favorite film ever. Because I do like donkeys. Nothing against donkeys.
It is a good film. Yeah,
it's not a fun film.
No, I must admit it's. I've had the similar thing with books. Like I used to read a lot when I was younger. When I was in college, I just absolutely tore through books, and I still love to read, but I don't read very often. But what I think one of the problems is I tended to have lofty expectations. I used to get a lot of like important, well-regarded books, but they were slow and they were difficult to read, and that wasn't helping me get back into books. And recently, the last couple of years, I said, right, enough. Is like I like books about cowboys. I like hardboiled noir books, and I like cheesy 70s sci-fi books, and I'm just going to read those. The shorter the better. I'm not going to bother reading anything else that's heavy and ongoing. Just enjoy myself. I'm old enough now to not put myself through any kind of unnecessary tedium. So
I started to try and collect every Dickens book. Like I love Dickens. I've never read a Dickens. I've never cracked one open. But I have a bunch of them. I just never. I feel like I have the complete works of Shakespeare. Never opened it.
I think some of the Dickens ones can be fun, but I think some of the shorter, like I must admit, I did although this is audio, it was on an audio book rather than reading it. But I can remember I went through a bit of an audiobook phase, and I did around Christmas. I did the Christmas Carol, and that is good fun. But it's nice and short, which helps.
Yeah, I have read Great Expectations, but that was at school. I'm not sure if that counts. So you're forced to read this. Does that count as actually reading it? Oh, no.
No, probably not. Cool. Well, excellent. Well, introduction over with, and let's move into what discs we're excited about. So I'm going to kick things off.
Yes.
And yeah, there's always loads of cool stuff coming out that I could talk about. But there's one in particular. I'm going to talk about a few, but there's one in particular I have to bring up, and I think Leon has the same one in mind. But it's got to be Game of Clones.
Yes, that's the one.
Severin's 14 films plus the documentary box set of Bruceploitation movies. So these are films that cash in on the legacy of Bruce Lee by having actors either pretend to be him or have extremely similar names that aren't really their real names, and have or totally abuse pictures, footage from his funeral and things. And it's they're just crazy. And yeah, then the films are probably going to be terrible, but they're going to be fun. I don't care. And I have already seen the documentary that's it's kind of ties it all together. The Clones of Bruce. And I really enjoyed that. So it's going to be nice to have that on the disc and have the kind of films to back it up, because there were loads of clips from it in the documentary, obviously. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Loaded with special features and all that kind of jazz. It's rare that I tend to be a kind of buy things on sale when it's cheap kind of guy, but I saw that and I was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go for it. And because I kind of figured it'd sell out soon, and I just splashed out and spent way too much money at. Hopefully my wife's not listening to this podcast or listening right now. But yeah, there goes the college fund for the girls. But never mind. It was good value considering how many films are on there. That's how I kind of
how many is there? Like 17 or something?
There's 14 films in the dockets. There's 15 films, I guess, overall. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only slight annoyance is that most of them, I think there's only one that isn't. Most of them are only the English dubs.
Okay.
And I tend to be kind of Mandarin Cantonese kind of track, but they weren't available. Like Frank Jane kind of mentioned somewhere on Facebook, they said they tried and they just can't get them. These films are quite obscure and kind of lost to time. And to be fair, because they're Bruceploitation films and they're trashy as well, I don't think it's going to add to the charm. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Other ones I'll briefly mention that I'm really excited about is Mute Witness. Arrow are bringing out Mute Witness. I can remember watching that back on VHS back in the day, and I really enjoyed that film. And I've been waiting for ages for it to get a proper kind of modern release. It's from what I remember, it's been a long time, but it's a cracking little thriller, and I'm looking forward to seeing that again. And then finally, I was just going to mention Third Window are bringing out another set of the Directors Company films, and I really enjoyed the last ones. I didn't see all of them, but I saw The Door, that was really good, and Typhoon Club, which was amazing. And they've got another couple from the same directors, Typhoon Club. I'm getting these titles mixed up. I'm probably going to get the wrong films mixed up with the wrong directors. But yeah, they're bringing out Crazy Family, Luminous Woman, and Love Hotel. That's the other one, which sounds really sleazy side of title. But yeah, I'm intrigued by that. I'm really interested in those. So kind of classic 80s Japanese movies that look a bit unusual, but cool. Leon, what are you excited about? I've stolen your thunder already.
First, I'm gonna quickly just mention, yes, the Bruce box set, the Bruceploitation box set. I'm beyond excited about that. I'm hoping to get it next payday this payday coming up before it sells out, because, like you said, I feel like it's gonna sell out immediately. I skimmed through the list of what films are included, and thankfully they've included the one that has always been an interest to me ever since I found out about the Bruceploitation genre. I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago, and I think it's called The Dragon Lives Again. I don't know if you're familiar with this one.
Just from the documentary, really. I've not.
Yes,
I've seen one of the films in the set recently at the cinema, but they had a special. They showed it as a double bill with the documentary, which was awesome.
That's amazing.
But yeah, anyway,
I covered the documentary for the site and loved it. I need to quickly find The Dragon Lives Again. Like, I need to find the premise just so I'm getting this correct, because otherwise I'm gonna look like a fool if I'm getting it wrong. Oh no, it is. Okay, so the premise for this one, which sounds absolutely nutty but kind of incredible, is it's a film about the soul of Bruce Lee going to the underworld so he can fight pop culture icons such as, and not limited to, Count Dracula, James Bond, Zatoichi, The Godfather, The Exorcist. I don't know who The Exorcist is, but
Is that Father Merrin or Pazuzu?
The Exorcist and Popeye the Sailor. It sounds incredible, and I've wanted to see that film ever since I heard about it. And the fact that it's included in that box set makes me happy that that's being preserved in some form on like high definition Blu-ray. So I'm really, really, really excited to check that out. I need to get the list up of the other films actually because I had a couple. There was a rumor. I don't know if we're going by rumors or not, but I'm gonna throw this one out anyway, just because apparently it's coming this year. There've been like those companies that do like the really, really special like steelbook releases over in Japan and stuff, and they kind of do those big, huge box sets like Manta Lab, I think, like one of the companies called. They specialize in collector's editions, and they've said that they're working on a box set that's supposed to be coming out later this year because Warner are apparently releasing Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut on 4K. And ever since I heard of that, I was like, yes. I watched Eyes Wide Shut for the first time about a year ago, and I absolutely loved it. I think it might be one of Kubrick's best. I hope that's not treason to say that. But
I mean, he's a director. You can pick any of his films and say there is. It's
so good.
Yeah, you can't really miss with Kubrick.
Oh, he's incredible. So I'm really excited for that. And over in America, Shout Factory or Scream Factory announced that they're doing a 4K release of Joe Dante's Matinee, which I'm really, really excited for because again, that's one I watched. I want to say about a year or two ago for the first time, and absolutely loved it. And then finally, now this one's a newer release, but I caught it at the cinema, really enjoyed it, and it's one of those ones like Cocaine Bear from last year, where it's getting a 4K release over here, but over in the States and everywhere else it's not. It's the film Lisa Frankenstein, directed by Robin Williams' daughter, and written by Diablo Cody, who wrote like Juno and films like that from that era. I think she also wrote Jennifer's Body, which is really good. But yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed that at the cinema, and I saw that's getting a 4K in I want to say a month or two, so I'm really, really excited for that. And if we get an email, I will absolutely cover that one.
I'll keep it in mind.
Yeah, but yeah, that's about it really. There's obviously so many other releases coming out, but yeah, the Bruceploitation box set and those ones are the ones that kind of like come to mind right now.
Cool, excellent. And Jay, is there anything on your radar?
So I don't really buy many DVDs these days, so it's not so I keep track of. I would love to. I'd love to expand the collection, but I don't. Just my current life, my life at the moment, I don't have time to watch many films unless it's for a podcast. So like, I don't tend to keep track of what's coming out. But whilst you've both been talking, I have been scrolling and looking for things, and I have a little list of some that we've had emails through the site for that I'm interested in. Rambling Rose, a film I don't know much about, but it is produced by Rennie Harlin. So we will cover it on our other podcast at some point. So I know it stars Laura Dern. Other than that, don't know. I don't think it's been released in the UK prior to now, so I'm looking forward to just checking it out and seeing what it is. There's a 4K of Source Code coming out. I really like Source Code.
Nice.
I think it's a really fun film that doesn't get talked about as much these days, and it's like time loop stuff is great. I love time loop stuff. J.J. Gyllenhaal, always good. So like this getting a 4K is great news. And then just looking ahead, stuff that I had no idea was coming out. Evolution is finally coming to Blu-ray.
Nice. I love that. I've seen it for ages.
As is Vertical Limit. A film I'd never heard of until I bought a box set that had my first ever favorite film, Daylight, along with Twister, a classic, and then just Vertical Limit chucked in there. I was like, well, what's this film? And I love it. Vertical Limit's great. If you want to see Ben Mendelsohn in an early role as a Australian rock climber who explodes, and then watch Vertical Limit.
I actually bought that recently myself because I got into climbing kind of a year or two ago, although I haven't done it much.
That's recently. A bad film to watch to get you into climbing.
It got me looking online about cool climbing films, like Vertical Limit. I thought that sounds fun, but yeah, I haven't seen it yet. But as usual, it's just been added to the end of the queue.
So have you seen it ever?
No.
Okay, well, it won't inspire you to do more climbing. The opening scene will put you off climbing forever, I think. Imagine at the start of Mission Impossible 2, but it goes terribly wrong. Basically, it's the start of Mission. Yes, very much so, yeah. The Oceans trilogy is coming to 4K, I think, which they were going to look fantastic They already look great just on DVD. So I mean, those have a great style. And then there's a steelbook coming out for Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah,
I love Kung Fu Panda. One of the best animated films outside of like Disney. Yeah, so that's ones that have caught my eye. And there's a bunch of classics, but I don't care about them. I want Kung Fu Panda on the steelbook.
Cool. Excellent. Well, let's kick things off then, and let's talk about films that films that we've watched from our collection. If I can get the words out. I'll kick things off because I've got a few I might talk about. So if I start, I might be able to sneak some in at the end, but we'll see how we get on. I'm gonna start at the most recent one. I managed to find a little extra time last night. I was gonna go to the cinema and it all went wrong. I actually went to the cinema and then went back home instantly because I get these like free tickets. I get these free tickets to the cinema, but I need to use like an online code to get the ticket, and then you type that in the cinema and you get the ticket. But the people I get the code from, the website was down and I couldn't get my ticket. I was like, But I was really annoyed. I was like, but I didn't want to pay for a ticket because I was thinking, well, I can come another night. And I was sat there like an idiot in the cinema, like faffing around on my telephone. I was just like, no, I'm just gonna go home. It already started like 10 minutes ago anyway.
What were you gonna see?
I was gonna see Monkey Man.
Yeah.
But no, so I'm going to try again tomorrow or the weekend or something. So I'm hoping to see it soon. I was because my brother couldn't make it either. I was hoping to bring him, although I keep messaging him, he keeps ignoring me. But yeah, if he's listening to this, come. But anyway, anyway. So instead of that, I watched quite one of the more unusual films in my collection because it sounded interesting, and that is a film called The Unknown Man of Shandigor, if that's how you pronounce it. It is directed by, I'm going to butcher all these names because my French, I say French, he's actually Swiss, but it's directed by Jean-Louis Roy, who's not done he's not done many films. I think he's worked more in TV and he's made some documentaries, but he's done like three features, and this is one of them. And it is a very unusual film. It is about this guy. It's a 60s film, 1967. So 1967. This guy called von Krantz. This what's my page now? This scientist, and what he does, he invents what's called like a canceller, which cancels out the cancels out the effects of the atomic bomb. So it basically can neutralize any atomic bomb before it doesn't quite explain it. I don't know if it stops it exploding or if it stops the kind of nuclear effects afterwards. It doesn't quite explain it, but basically it makes nuclear warfare kind of a thing of the past. Which sounds amazing. It sounds like a great thing that's going to cause peace. And supposedly he originally kind of worked on it to bring peace to the world. This is the 60s, the height of the Cold War. And but what really happens is all the other countries want it because they want it to have control. They say if they have that control, then nothing's going to stop them, and they can keep it away from the other countries, and they say they can still have their nuclear warfare. So it makes things even worse. So it doesn't go to plan at all. And so instead, what happens is all the kind of big countries, they send groups of spies to go and either steal the kind of formula or to kill him and take it or whatever, but basically to get their hand on it and get control of this anti-nuclear device because the scientist hasn't shared it with anyone. He's kept it to himself. So and also to make things add another kind of weird dimension to it is this this scientist von Krantz. He is actually, you think this guy who's made the kind of ultimate potentially peaceful device ever would be a good-hearted man who's out to change the world, but no, he's horrible. He's a really nasty person, and he in particular, as well, partly from just hiding this from everyone else, he's got a daughter, an adult daughter, and he's kind of really domineering of her. He keeps her locked up at home and won't let her go out. And he spies on her everywhere. He's got cameras everywhere. And like when he wants to speak to her, he speaks to her through a megaphone, and suddenly this voice will come out and say, "What are you doing?" and all this kind of stuff. And he kind of basically keeps her locked up. And so he's kind of got this thing going on. He hides away in his big compound, which has like an evil room that gasses any spies that come in there and turns them into liquid, like you do. And and yeah, and it goes on from there, and it kind of mixes that with these different groups of spies coming to get him, and it is just it's really good. It's for what the most striking thing about it is the visuals. It is incredibly stylish. It looks gorgeous. It's black and white. It's got very kind of arty kind of framing and things. It's some great use of lighting, some great use of locations. There's quite a bit of it at one point shot in Barcelona, in Gaudi's buildings, various Gaudi buildings. It makes good use of that, and it's really cool. And but it's just very odd. It kind of mixes this kind of Cold War paranoia thriller, but with a bit of a campy, like over the top 60s kind of spy TV show vibe, mixed with quite a lot of black humor. Like a lot of the humor comes from the spies coming from the different countries. It really plays on their nationalities. Like the American spies, their secret hideout is a bowling alley, and so they're in there. And like the French spies, they're all bald and they all look alike and they all kind of move in unison, and it's just done very cleverly. Very lot of humor comes out of that. And the leader of the Russian spies is absolutely mental and is just kind of is very amusing. And it's just a really weird mishmash of kind of humor and dark kind of satire. And it's although it's a spy film, there's maybe not a huge. It's slighter than you think. Like the story's a bit slighter, so it did run out of steam a little bit towards the end. And like the way the Von Krantz character kind of what happens with him at the end is slightly underwhelming, although at the same time kind of admirably weird. I won't spoil it, but I really enjoyed it in general. And even if it just faltered a bit towards the end, it might have been partly because I was extremely tired and I was a bit like struggling to stay awake by the end. I think if I was more awake, I'd probably been more to it. But still, definitely a kind of a 4-star kind of really enjoyable film that I don't think I to be honest, I'd never even heard of it. I bought it on a whim because it was from it's not I bought it through Vinegar Syndrome, but it's one of the kind of partner labels. I think Deaf Crocodile it's called. But it was just a case of I'd bought something on the sale and the postage is so expensive from America. I was like, I'm just going to buy lots of other things to justify it. And I saw that it was cheap. It was, I don't know, $8 or something like that. And it sounded interesting. I looked at some reviews and it sounded pretty good. And I just got it on a whim, and I'm really glad I checked it out. So definitely one to look for if you can pronounce it. Yeah, The Unknown Man of Shandigor.
That sounds really interesting. Yeah, no, I'd love to check it out. I'm going to add that to my watch list.
Cool. Well, I'm going to shift the order around. So, Jay, what have you been watching recently?
Sure. I only have one film to talk about. I actually looked at when was the last time I watched one of my DVDs I hadn't seen before, just not for a podcast, and it was September 2022.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, I find it hard to pick something I haven't seen. I like to go back to stuff I know I like. I watch films to make me feel better. So I went in the attic and had a root around, and I made a little selection of 6 films, and my wife narrowed it down to 2. And we started watching The Insider. And I got about 3 minutes in. I was like, I'm really not in the mood for The Insider tonight. This feels too heavy for a Tuesday night. So we bailed on that. I went for The Frighteners instead. Peter Jackson. Which I've had for ages. I've been meaning to watch for a long time. I would hold up the disc, but I don't have the box on me. It's downstairs. So pretend that I'm holding a box of the Frighteners. There's like a face coming out of a wall kind of thing.
Oh, it's such a great poster.
It's a great poster. I think that's put. My wife's not a fan of horror films, so she's like not picked that when I've suggested it before because it looks very scary. When it's mostly a comedy with some scary bits in it, I guess. I love Peter Jackson. His King Kong is still one of my favorite films of all time. I know that's not a popular opinion, but it's one I love.
It's fun. I enjoy it.
If Letterboxd did a top 10, it would be in there rather than a top 4. It would definitely be on for me. So I've been looking forward to this, and I think I was a little disappointed just because I've put it on such a pedestal for so many years. One day I will watch The Frighteners, and then that day came, and I was like, well, this is what I've been okay. So if those listening who don't know, it stars Michael J. Fox. It's produced by Robert Zemeckis, who put forward Michael J. Fox for the role. Jackson probably wanted unknowns, but so Michael J. Fox is in it as Frank Bannister, who can see ghosts. He wants to be an architect, but he's not great at it. So instead, he's like a ghost seeing con man who like has some friends of his who are ghosts who go and haunt somewhere, and then the people there call him up to get rid of the ghosts, and he comes, and yeah, and that's how that plays out. And then he starts seeing these numbers appearing on people's foreheads, and then they die. And it's because there's a serial killer out killing people who is a ghost. The ghost rules are a little unclear, a little inconsistent, I would say, which, you know, it happens. But like sometimes you can touch them, sometimes you can't, sometimes they can interact with stuff, sometimes they can't. It's you know, whatever, it's fine. The ghosts are probably the best part. You got like G McBride is a lot of fun as like a 70s like Afro kind of blaxploitation kind of ghost. What's his name? Jake Busey is the serial killer. Jake Busey, you'll be not surprised to know that Jake Busey's playing a serial killer because that's what Jake Busey plays. That's what he looks like, and he does it very well. He's perfectly cast to play a serial killer. You got Arlie Ermy as like an army, shockingly, an army general.
Whoa, what?
Haunting a cemetery. All the ghosts kind of have a one-note thing that they're very typecast, but their one notes do play out very well. I think Michael J. Fox may be a little miscast. Because his character's just no fun, and Michael J. Fox he's great at having a comedic side, and his his paranormal guy is just kind of a bit you don't root for him. He's irritated, not irritating. He's doesn't come off very well. It gets better as the film goes on, but it's a hard role for him to pull off. I think. I'm not sure who I would have suggested instead, but this hasn't like top tier Jackson for me. It doesn't touch the Lord of the Rings trilogy, of course, because they're basically perfect. It's it's a lot better than that film he made about Saoirse Ronan dying that I can't remember the name of.
Lovely Bones.
Lovely Bones, yes.
Yeah.
A weird book, a terrible film. Yeah, Mark Wahlberg could be her dad. Okay, fine. What an odd casting choice that was. But this is kind of mid-tier, I think. But have you both seen The Frighteners? I'm guessing. No,
I have seen The Frighteners. I saw it. I saw it when it first came out and loved it. I saw it, but I have seen it one more time since. But it's been a while. I still enjoyed it. I mean, I would like you. I certainly wouldn't say it's his best. But I do still like it. I think it's been too long to talk about too many details. I can always remember when it first came out being really impressed by the kind of ghost in the wall effects. It uses a lot of those kind of, but I don't know what they look like nowadays. Are they
less good?
Okay.
It starts out as like the opening scene is like a figure coming out of the wall when the wall's kind of like all rubbery, but it's very CGI. And I'm thinking, oh, this looks pretty good for like 1988. And then you find out it came out in 1996. Yeah. And like, we had
Is it 96? I thought it was later than that. Oh wow.
No. This was the film he made prior to Lord of the Rings, so he spent five years making them, basically. This does feel like having it's kind of a transition point between that early Peter Jackson schlocky New Zealand or like Brain Dead. Meet the Feebles is the only one of his I haven't seen now. I don't know how eager I am to see Meet the Feebles. I'll see it at some point, but I'm going to lower my expectations. But it's. Yeah, Brain Dead is fantastic. Like Bad Taste, great. It's got a foot in that camp and a foot in the Lovely Bones kind of camp because he likes to have people in heaven. Like he has like in a bunch of his films, he has people going into the afterlife in some way. So I think that's something he's fascinated by.
I can remember it being pretty dark for what seems to be what's kind of ostensibly quite a light sort of comedy. That it did get quite dark, quite nasty. I can remember the kind of serial killer bits being quite brutal at times, but
I mean, there's a sequence where you kind of go into the initial serial killing of the past and experience it all as the victims did, and that's not how the first half of the film plays out. The first it's it's comedic. It's a comedy horror. It goes from one half to the other, it's a little jarring, but it does work, and the cast helps. And there's some like real top tier creeps here as well. There's a guy as an FBI agent called Milton, who is played by Jeffrey Combs.
Oh yes,
who,
yes.
he's got a lot of creepy business going on in his acting. Makes a lot of choices, and they're all they don't. He's not a nice guy. This guy.
I do remember enjoying Jeffrey Combs. I mean, he is a legend though. But yeah, Reanimator and all that.
Oh, Reanimate's fantastic.
So when you have him and Jake Busey, and there's like an elderly lady character who's like the mother of an early victim. She's like real. Not a fan of her either. She's got a lot of like, creepy old lady going about her as well. And the main love interest is Lucy, played by Trini Alvarado. Her boyfriend is a grade A movie moron. They're always fun. Always fun to have a stupid guy in a film, and he's peak movie stupid guy. John Astin actually has quite a good role as a ghost as well. Who's like, I don't really think of John Astin. He's Gomez from the Addams Family, but here he's a cowboy ghost called the Judge who likes to have sex with mummies. And but he's like really lewd about it. Like a quote from him after having sex with mummy is, "I love it when they lay still like that." I was like, "Oh my god, this is no, John Astin, bad John Astin." Yeah, so that's
X-rated Addams Family.
A little bit.
Oh yeah, it's one I keep meaning to revisit. I think I've also, because I try to think when I last watched, because I've got it on Blu-ray now, and there's supposed to be quite a good. I think there's like a feature length making of on there.
4.5
hour making of.
I haven't seen that.
Wow, that is
it's out there.
Epic.
It's not on my disc.
No, oh no. Hopefully it's on mine. I'm not saying. Just check now.
I want to pick up the Turbine 4K that came out. I want to say about a year or two ago, because it has the film, it has that documentary, but I think there's a new documentary that they brought some of the cast and crew back, like a retrospective piece. So you're getting
they need more.
Yeah, you need like 7 hours of documentary. But because I don't know if you guys know, but Arrow were teasing a Frighteners release at one point. Like there were like postcards in some of their releases, but from what I've heard online, Turbine kind of have the exclusive like distribution, like worldwide rights for a 4K for a couple of years. So I might just bite a bullet and just like import it from Germany or something, because I'd love to see that. I like Jackson. Again, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is fantastic. My favorite is Brain Dead. I think that film is phenomenal. It is maybe the greatest horror comedy of all time.
He kick ass for the Lord. he keeps Jackson keeps teasing releasing all those on Blu-ray and UHD on that, but just it's not happening. He keeps getting busy doing all his World War projects,
Beatles stuff that no one cares.
Oh yeah,
about.
Beatles. Yeah.
I'm gonna say something that might be controversial, but I don't think it's a bad idea that he hasn't released them on 4K, and I'll tell you why. Because judging from what I've seen of that Beatles documentary, he's using AI to like DNR the hell out of everything, and I am terrified that he's going to try and like digitalize or make like his old classic films look more contemporary, like the
AI. They're all gonna have 7 fingers.
I don't want that at all. So I'm like, I've got the old Lionsgate Blu-ray, like the really expensive, like US import for Brain Dead, and it looks okay. It's not like a great transfer or anything, but I'm glad I own the film as it is. But yeah, I'm very worried that if a 4K comes out, he's just going to mess with the films.
I don't own it in any form. I just kind of have memories of watching it many times on video and TV and stuff like that. And it's just it's been ages since I've seen it, especially Brain Dead. I'm sorry, no, a Bad Taste. I haven't seen that for ages, but Brain Dead. It cropped on TV once or twice, and I've watched it more often. But again, it's been a while, so I'm desperate for those. And Heavenly Creatures as well. We need a Heavenly Creatures.
I really want to see that. I really want.
It's really good. It's good. Yeah, it's good. Good Eddie Kate Winslet. But I love the optimism of IMDb that it still has in upcoming for Peter Jackson, untitled Tintin sequel.
Oh yeah, I love Tintin.
Tintin, fantastic. Like one of Spielberg's best from the past 20 years, I would say.
So underrated. Yeah.
And the optimism that we're going to get a sequel to that film that no one saw and people love, but not many people. It was going to happen one day, but that should probably be taken down.
Yeah, maybe its popularity will boom in the future, but probably not.
Sure. I hope so. I really do. That's great.
Cool. Excellent. Well, Leon, what have you been watching?
I'm gonna do a double bill, but I'm not gonna talk about these films as in depth because they're kind of one of the same thing. I've been on a bit of a Godzilla kick recently with Godzilla Kong: The New Empire coming out recently. I went to see that. We had a new cinema open up in town, and I got to see that in IMAX. Really stupid, really fun. And I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking for in a Godzilla film. I'm looking for something that is very ridiculous, has some fun kaiju fights, and preferably not much in the way of annoying humans, because a lot of the Godzilla films, or kaiju films in particular, get bogged down in really bad human stuff. But I over the past, I want to say, week and a half, I watched 2 films in this collection, and I've been going through the collection with my friend Brady, who lives over in Canada, and he has the Criterion set too, and we'll watch films on call and everything. And yeah, we took a break watching the Showa era films from the Criterion box set. And it must have been about a year, maybe a year and a half since we last watched one. But we're on the last, I think the last 4 or 5, and we watched Godzilla versus Hedorah, which is absolutely fantastic. It might be the best Showa sequel outside. Well, the original's obviously like phenomenal, but it's probably the best sequel, I'd say, in the Showa box set. It is absolutely fantastic. It really, like, it's weird to describe it. Have you seen either of you seen Godzilla versus Hedorah?
I watched the entire show era box set. I reviewed the box set. It's one of my most epic reviews. It's
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's no, and that was one of my. I do get them because I watched them all in unison. Like, a lot of them blend into one another. But I do remember, is that the one with the weird kind of smog monster kind of thing?
Yes, it's a smog monster one.
No, yeah, I liked that one. Yeah, it's kind of dark. I liked that one a lot.
It's really dark. It's like a smog monster, and it's the first film since the original to kind of try to speak on some issue other than, hey, here's some monsters fighting each other, because obviously it's got a really like big anti-pollution message, which is really interesting. But the thing I love about the film is it's so stylized. Like, it sounds like I'm a lunatic when I say this, but there were multiple points where it reminded me of like a Russ Meyer feature, which is really funny to say about a Godzilla film. But there's like random sequences of like people dancing in clubs, and it's like mid-70s. It reminded me of like Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, and I was like, why am I being reminded of Beyond
fewer
the Valley?
boobs?
Fewer boobs, yes. But no, there's like musical numbers in the film. Like, there's just full-on musical numbers. People start singing in clubs. The actual kaiju fights are really, like you said, it's quite dark, and it easily has like the largest body count or like kill count in any film, because humans are getting murdered in this film. You see them like evaporate, and like as soon as the smog affects them from Hedorah, you see them like turn into skeletons. Like, they lose all of their flesh and they're dying on screen. I'm like, this is really brutal. And I was just really surprised, because I remember the last few we had like Son of Godzilla. Like that. And Son of Godzilla is fun, but I'm not going to say it's a good film. I don't think Son of Godzilla is very good, but it's hard, because sometimes you get some fun kaiju films, but they're pretty naff overall. But that one is one that I'd consider like genuinely good. So yeah, I watched Godzilla vs. Hedorah, and then 2 nights ago we watched the follow-up film, which was Godzilla vs. Gigan, or is it Gigan? I'm really bad with pronunciation.
Pronunciation, I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yeah, Gigan, whichever it is. And that one was pretty fun too. At first I was kind of like, this is kind of going back to the boring human stuff, and it's not as stylized. And from a director of Son of Godzilla, so I was like, oh no, are we in for another Son of Godzilla? But as it goes on, it kind of follows like a comic book artist, like a manga artist, and it's got this really funny premise where these really famous, these really rich businessmen want to create a theme park called Childrenland, where they've got a big plastic like Godzilla, and they essentially want a really safe environment for children, but it's actually got like lasers inside of this big Godzilla prosthetic, and they want to destroy all of the monsters on Monster Island. So Godzilla and his buddies come back, even though they reuse footage from the other films because it's really lazy. But they're all fighting, and then Gigan kind of looks like a robot chicken, and he's really, really violent too. And I was just like, I sound like a maniac explaining this, but that's kind of par for the course with kaiju films. You just sound like, what are you going on about whenever you describe one of these? But yeah, no, it had really, really fun kaiju action. And again, it's a bit plodding earlier on with like kind of the setup and everything. And the reused footage from, I think I was looking it up online. I think they reused footage from 4 separate Godzilla films pretty extensively. Like Ghidorah makes an appearance, and one of his fights from one of the previous films, I think it might have been I forget what the space film is called. Invasion of Astro Monster. The Invasion of Astro Monster, it recycles footage from about like an entire fight scene, and you're just re-watching this fight scene that you've already seen in a previous film again. But outside of that, I thought it was a blast, and the last like act of the film is really, really like top tier kaiju stuff. I'm excited to continue. We've only got 3 more films in this box set.
I'm just, as I say, I struggle to remember a lot of them because I saw so many, but I'm just looking at my review now, and yeah, I think for Godzilla versus Gigan, I kind of felt like it got off to a bit of a slow start.
Yes.
But it kind of picks up towards the end. It was kind of a mid-tier one for me, but it was all right.
Yeah, it's got really solid action, but again, it's the character work. It's like, unless you're like Godzilla -1 or the original film, you're not really getting great characters in a Godzilla film most of the time. But if you go in with the expectations, there's going to be filler, there's going to be poorly written characters, but you might get some fun kaiju action. I think that's the best way to kind of judge Godzilla films.
Looking at my reviews now, it looks like the next one, Godzilla vs. Megalon, is I call it one of the silliest ones.
Yes,
it's pretty bonkers. It's not one of the best ones, but I kind of use the word amusing in a trashy so bad it's good way. So this is one of the dodgier ones, but fun ones. And the last 2, the Mecha Godzilla ones, I can remember quite enjoying those. Those are the last 2. I quite like those ones.
Yeah, I'm really excited. All I know about Megalon is there's the iconic like flying kick. But I've seen the GIF and like clips of that so many times, and from what I understand, it's got kind of like a wrestling tag team feel to it with like the fight sequences, and that sounds really amusing.
Yeah, it's weird. I came really late to kaiju films. I never really watched any when I was a kid. I'd seen the first Godzilla. I'd seen the first Godzilla a long time ago, but I hadn't really watched many other ones. So I think I kind of just went for the Godzilla box set. I just risked it because it was a cool looking set, and I knew I'd probably never fork out the money to buy it, or if I did, I'd regret it. So I was like, right, I'm going to review it, and I just went and blitzed them all. But from watching that set, it made me into a kaiju fan. I was like, no, these are awesome. There's just such a certain kind of charm to them, and I keep trying to watch more. So I haven't. What's it called? Gamera set. I've only watched 1 so far, but I hope to get 2 more of those. And the
big box set that they released, is that the big box set up there? Like the
no, I've got the 2 separate ones. I actually prefer the 2 separate ones. You put them next to each other, it looks really cool.
Yeah, they kind of like the artwork and everything. Yeah,
but I really enjoyed the Daimajin. I could probably not pronouncing all these wrong, but the Daimajin one, I really enjoyed that.
Those, didn't they?
Yeah,
I've only seen the first one of those, but yeah, the Gamera films or Gamera films, they're really, really trashy knockoffs of Godzilla. So just be prepared for those. But,
I know a lot of them are a bit more aimed at kids, aren't they? I think. A lot of the Godzilla ones are too.
The good thing about the Arrow box set compared to like with the Godzilla box set, it's just the Showa era. But with the Gamera films, they release 2 sides of it, or in the box set you get all of the classic films. I think there's like 8 in total, and then you get the reboot trilogy, the Heisei trilogy, and then there's just like an extra standalone reboot they did called Gamera the Brave. But I've got a really, really fun story to share if I can, super quick about it. So I didn't grow up with any kaiju films whatsoever. Like again, my introduction was like modern introduction was kind of like a lot of American blockbusters, and then I finally dived deep into the Showa era stuff. But I have a story because I did see one kaiju film growing up, and it's actually kind of in line with the whole like fact about we're a website that talks about physical media. I remember when I was really, really young, there was a PlayStation magazine. I can't remember what it was called, but I don't know if you remember, like back in the day with PlayStation magazines or just even random magazines, they'd sometimes throw in like a free DVD or like a free film or something like that.
Yep.
And there was this PlayStation magazine. I can't remember what it was called, but what they did is they included a manga entertainment DVD of the first film in the Gamera reboot Heisei trilogy, Gamera Guardian of the Universe. But here's the thing. So back in those days, dubs were way more common than subs, and the UK distributor, Manga Entertainment, for some unknown reason, they dubbed Gamera Guardian of the Universe, but they didn't hire any actual dubbing artists or any like voice actors or anything. They just used people who worked in the office who were incredibly British sounding to dub like every single person. So there's like, I don't know, like 20, 30, 40 characters who speak in the film. And the voices mostly about 3 or 4 people in total. And I'm like, okay, this is the worst dub I've ever seen. But as a kid, I absolutely loved it. But the real kicker, the thing that makes me like, this sounds like treason, but I kind of refuse to watch the original language version because of this, because it's so odd. So it's got a really classic, like theatrical score to it. Like the music in the film is really theatrical. But for the UK version, Manga Entertainment had the genius, and I mean genius, idea of placing techno music over the entire film. So the entire score for the film, whenever kaiju fights are occurring, or even when there's just a dialogue scene between 2 people, there's blaring techno music playing in just like family dinner sequences, and like people are getting massacred, and there's these really graphic and brutal like death sequences, and you've just got this thumping techno music playing, and it's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I was like, oh my god, this is perfect. And as a kid, I was just like, this is amazing, because obviously I didn't know any better.
Do they have that track on the set? That's the question.
Yes, yes. I was so worried, because as soon as I saw the Arrow announcer set, I was like, okay, this is awesome, but there's no way they're going to include it. But when you put the disc in, you can go to the audio options, and there's an English dub, and it says like English US, but then there's an English UK dub. And they not only did they find and acquire like the dub and everything, but they actually spent like an unbelievable amount of time synchronizing it up, because obviously it was like a PAL disc, so it would have been sped up a little bit. 20 frames a second. So not only did they include it, but they painstakingly made sure it like worked with the new 4K restoration. And it's one of the greatest things ever. I know, even if you're not like a fan of dubs or anything, I highly suggest checking out the UK dub.
I will have a listen.
It's so incredible.
Yeah, I think the thing with the whole sub and dub debate, a lot of it is what you grew up with as well. I think the thing is, there's a lot of the kind of old school kung fu fans who were first into it in the 80s, 90s, and stuff. They're quite often into the dubs because that's all they had. But I think for me, I came on a little later. I got into martial arts movies when The Matrix came out, and then Crouching Tiger came out like the following year. That really got me, and then that got me buying. But by then, you had Hong Kong Legends came out, and they kind of treated the films much better. They were in widescreen. They had the original language and stuff. So I kind of got into them. So I never really watched the dubs. So if I ever see dubs, I just really struggle with them.
That's
occasionally. But if it is a funny dub, it's still worth it. If it's an enjoyable, bizarre kind of, it's worth a look.
Yeah, it's probably like in the Hall of Fame of bad dubs, but incredible dubs at the same time. But
sorry, I was just going to say, I'm trying to remember. I've got to see if I can find the actual name of it now. But I saw a really, really good documentary about dubbing. Well, it's not just about dubbing it, but dubbing kind of comes into it in a really unusual way. Is let me look it up and see what I can remember. It's Chuck Norris versus
Godzilla.
No, Chuck Norris versus like communism. That's it. Chuck Norris versus communism.
What an amazing title! Oh my god,
it's really good. But what it is, it's about in the 80s in communist Romania, because it was under communism. There were strict rules about what they could watch film wise and TV and stuff like that. So there became a kind of but the people in those days, the kind of general public, they still wanted to watch fun Hollywood movies. So there was a massive market, an underground market for smuggled VHS tapes of banned Hollywood movies. and it was Chuck Norris movies, it was Sylvester Stallone movies, Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, all this kind of stuff. They liked the action and things like this, but they were smuggled in, and but what they'd do is they'd have to dub them. They wouldn't, subtitling and stuff was too difficult, so they're always dubbed. But because it was all illegal and kind of dodgy, it was basically like one woman like dubbing everything, or sometimes, or maybe a couple, literally like one or two people dubbing all the voices, and all these films that were coming over from the West kind of smuggled into the country. But you should check that documentary.
That sounds amazing.
If you can find it anyway, it's a fascinating, it's a surprisingly kind of inspiring kind of film, despite being called Chuck Norris versus Communism. I don't know where you can find it. I think I reviewed it actually. I just got one of these random links, but it's
I see it. Yes, yeah,
it's really, really good film. And also, I want to go back to a point. I realized I forgot to mention something when I reviewed my Unknown Man of Shandigor, because you reminded me when he said there were random musical numbers in one of the Godzilla movies. In the Unknown Man names in that film, there's one of the characters actually played by again, I can't pronounce his name, Serge Gainsbourg. He's very, very, very famous French singer. He did the Je t'aime. That's like that kind of sexy French song. I can't remember. Yeah. Anyway, but he plays one of the characters. He plays the leader of the French spies, and he has a random musical number. When one of the spies dies, they kind of have this special ceremony, and he sings this song called "Bye Bye, Mr. Spy," which is, and it just randomly, whilst playing a really cool kind of church organ, kind of in a smooth lounge room jazz style. So yeah, there's that as well. I just had to throw that in there because it was cool.
That's great.
Anyway, how are we doing for time? I was going to say, it's getting a bit late. I've
been very quiet because I've only seen one Godzilla film before 1996. No, you're fine. Like, I've seen Godzilla versus Biollante for a podcast, which is the one where he fights a plant infused with a scientist's dead daughter. A very normal film.
Yes.
I enjoyed it. Godzilla -1 was fantastic as well.
Yes,
I did enjoy that.
-1 was excellent.
So I will watch more classic Godzilla films.
Yes.
I haven't yet. I don't have a box set.
It's the thing. That's the thing is the only way you can watch it. I'm sure you can stream them somewhere, but the main way to watch it is to spend like 150 quid on this massive box set.
And it's out of print, which
is it?
Yeah. So I will say, if you have a friend, or if you have like an American like bank card or credit card or something, sign up for the Criterion channel, because the great thing about the Criterion channel compared to every other streaming service out there, and I know streaming service with physical media, but Criterion channel is an exception because it's great. And it's like, I think it's like $10 a month $10 a month American, and I share the payments with my friend Brady. But the great thing is, as soon as you've signed up for it, you don't need a VPN to access it. So you can go on the website and everything's there. They have every single Showa era film on there. And the great thing about the Criterion channel compared to every other streaming service that I love is they'll actually have, like, every month they'll have a select amount of Criterion editions. So whatever film it is, so say it's like David Lynch's Lost Highway, you get every single bonus feature included on the channel too to watch. So awesome. It's really neat. But yeah, maybe if you want to watch Godzilla films, make a Criterion channel account and pay like $10 and you can see all of them there. Yeah.
Cool. Nice. Although I feel like I should have some disclaimer saying we do not endorse this, but I don't think anyone cares.
I mean, buy the box set. Buy the box set.
You can't anymore, like you just said. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Cool. I feel like it. I'd have to check, but I'm sure it might be streaming somewhere else in the UK, but who knows? Cool. What I think I might do, we're getting a bit late, so I'm not going to go on, but I did watch something else. I'm going to really briefly talk about it. I'll try and be brief. But the other film I did watch, if I can open the window up again, is a film called Address Unknown. So I cracked open a film noir box set that I had, and this was on there. Although it's questionable as to whether it's film noir. I don't know. It's more of a kind of a war drama. But anyway, I just wanted to briefly talk about it because I thought it's quite an interesting little film. It was made in 1944. It's set just before World War II, and it starts off. There's these two families that are very close, that are living in San Francisco, and a Jewish family and a German family. And the German family go back to Germany to live, but they kind of swap some of the kids around in terms of who stays where. So the Jewish daughter goes to Germany to try and start a career as an actress, and because she's been given some opportunities over there. And then the son of the German family stays in San Francisco to work with the Jewish guy. They have an art dealership in America. But yeah, so that happens. But then what happens is the German, the kind of father of the German family, when he's in Germany, he starts he becomes friends with this very important kind of baron, and but it soon becomes clear that this very important baron is an uber kind of Nazi supporter, and he kind of forces those beliefs onto this German father, and he starts to kind of go down that route, and it kind of, the film looks at how that kind of creates a big divide between these families that were incredibly close, and also within his family, and it shows the kind of divide these extreme political beliefs can have, and also a lot of kind of but there's also a worry about his association with this family, this Jewish family that he's good friends with, and it kind of goes on from there. And yeah, it was a really it's again like the Unknown Man from Shandigor. It's a really, really nicely shot. It was shot by, I've written it down somewhere, Rudolph Maté, who's a bit of a legend for shooting back in that classic era, and it's just it's also quite. I realize because it was shot during the war, it can be seen as kind of propaganda, but at the same time, I think it takes a fairly mature approach. It's not, although it certainly doesn't show the kind of Germans or the Nazis to be good people. It shows the Germans, at least that family of Germans, to be more human than in most kind of propaganda films at the time. So it actually takes a fairly mature, quite interesting approach to it, and which is quite bold considering this is during the war they released this. So yeah, it's a really interesting little film, and I as I say, I enjoyed it a lot. It's especially with the kind of cinematography and everything. I got it through. It was through one of these Mill Creek super cheap film noir 9-film box sets, and I know they don't have the best of reputations, but to be honest, it looked all right. It didn't look too bad. It wasn't like grade A kind of 4K transfer or anything, but it looked fine to my eyes. But yeah, I thought I'd throw that out there as a kind of recommendation. But I don't know if Jay, you said you just had one, didn't you? But
yeah.
Leon, is there anything else you want to quickly whiz over that you'd recommend, or are you good?
I'm gonna quickly. I'm gonna do a speed round just because they're all connected. So I watched the first two films in the Police Story franchise. I'd seen the first one before, and I love the first one. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times before. But yeah, me and my brother we've just decided on a whim that we're gonna go through as many Jackie Chan films as possible and do like a ranking list, see where it ends up. So I showed him Police Story and watched Police Story 2 for the first time. Not as good as the original. The original is like one of the greatest films, greatest action films of all time. But Police Story 2 has like amazing stunts, but it's also way too long. Like, I don't know. Have you seen the Police Story films?
I've seen the Police Story films. Yeah.
What do you think of the Police Story 2? Because I like it overall.
I liked it quite a lot. Yeah, it's not as good as the first. But I still enjoyed it. I know what you mean. It is a bit on the long side, but I didn't find it was excessively over long. Yeah, and it's got, as I say, it's got some great scenes in it. I quite like the showdown in the factory.
Oh, the showdown in the factory is insane.
And it's got an awesome explosion at the end of that. I'm a sucker for a good explosion.
maybe one of the best explosions ever. Oh, it's incredible. But yeah, no, I had a blast with those. I'm really excited to check out Super Cop.
I was going to say, have you seen Super Cop yet? Because a lot of people, that's their favorite. I wouldn't go that far, but it has some awesome stunts in it though, and it is loads of fun. It's better than the second one. My ranking would be kind of 1, 3, 2, I think.
Okay. But, yeah. Oh, I'm really excited to check that out because I've heard great things. And in terms of the other films, we've only watched a handful, but I watched his directorial debut, Fearless Hyena. I'd honestly recommend it. I was really, really surprised by it. It's he did this. When did he do this? I think this was the same year as Police Story. It might have been
Oh,
1985.
really? I thought it was
But yeah, it's one of the like classics kind of feeling Chan films and everything. And he kind of plays the lovable doofus, like he's got a master, and his master doesn't want him to use his crazy kung fu move and everything, but he uses them anyway. And it's really violent. Like it's a 15 here, which kind of surprised me given how the BBFC love to give any like martial arts film like an 18 still for some reason. But no, I was kind of shocked by how violent it is, and yeah, no, it's a really, really solid film. It blends questionable humor. I should just say questionable humor with some really, really great action sequences. But yeah, no, I had a blast with that. And then finally,
yeah, I've heard quite good things about that one.
I'd recommend it if you're a fan of Chan. I think it's like it's a must watch just because it's like the first one he directed.
It's one of the few ones I haven't got around to yet.
Yeah, and the 88 Films Blu-ray looks amazing. Like I'd argue the 88 Films Blu-ray for that looks better than the 4K for Police Story 1, which is kind of insane. But the first one we watched in this binge, and the one I'll end off in, is Spiritual Kung Fu. I don't know if you've seen.
I've not seen that one yet either. I do have it. Yeah, I think I've got all the 88 films Jackie Chan's on.
This is from the Lo Wei era of Jackie Chan's career, where basically Golden Harvest were trying to pin him as the next Bruce Lee, even though that's not really where like he wanted to go. He didn't want to just be the next Bruce Lee. He wanted to be Jackie Chan. And yeah, this film, he plays again like kind of a goofball and everything. And there's this secret text of like a kung fu that's so dangerous that it could kill anybody in one punch. It's like really, really fantastical. And some secret ninjas essentially break into this academy, steal the scrolls and the text and everything. So Jackie has to learn how to use the other kung fu, which is the only way to combat this scary kung fu. And the way he does it is by finding a scroll that's behind the walls for some reason. But inside the scroll, there are 5 ghostly, like possessive figures for each of the 5 fighting styles that help him train. It's really, really bonkers. One of the first scenes involving these ghost characters, they're tormenting Jackie so much that he's trying to like beat up ghosts, which just is really funny in concept anyway. So they hide behind the wall, and they're hiding on this. They're hiding behind the wall, and you just see these like really, really poorly composited like little ghosts in the background. It's just actors in like full-on white like makeup and everything. So Jackie decides the best idea is he's gonna pee all over them. So you just get a scene where Jackie Chan is pissing on ghosts, and I'm like, what am I watching? So, I mean, if that sounds interesting to you, Spiritual Kung Fu might be up your alley. It has an amazing, like, last 15 minutes. Like, it's just this kind of non-stop action, like, non-stop, martial arts sequence. It's really, really good. And again, it gets quite violent at times.
I must admit, I do have a soft spot for both the kind of, for the period kind of martial arts movies. I'm losing my voice tonight. Yeah. And also, I do have a real soft spot for the kind of, the kind of ghost themed films from that era. I don't know, I just like them. They always have ridiculous kind of weird rules and traditions and ways of getting rid of them. They're always bonkers. Like Mr. Vampire's one of my favorite. I love
I need to see those. I picked up the Eureka collections recently, but I've not watched any.
It's an acquired, they're probably an acquired taste. It depends if you're into the kind of the wacky kind of Hong Kong comedy of the era, but I love those films. Especially the first one. The first one's one of my favorites. One of my favorite like Hong Kong movies of the 80s. I love it. But it's not to everyone's taste. I can remember I recommended it to Andy Goulding, and I think he got halfway through and gave up, which is a shame. I think it does improve, but I don't know. It depends on the humor. If you find it just too stupid, then you won't get into it. But when it comes to kind of I have a real soft spot for that cheesy old Hong Kong comedy. It's really kind of lame and silly, but I like it.
I mean, if that's what you're into, Spiritual Kung Fu probably is the recommendation I'd give you on this one. It's a good blend of bizarre comedy. I'll just say that, like really, really bizarre stuff that we didn't know whether we were supposed to be laughing or whether it was just like we're just laughing at the sheer absurdity of anything. But it has like it's probably one of the more successful kind of like low wage Jackie Chan like outings. Because I remember what was it? To Kill with Intrigue. I think I watched, and I wasn't a fan of that. Although 88 are releasing that on 4K now, so I'm probably gonna double dip, even though I didn't like it because of course. But yeah, no, Spiritual Kung Fu. I don't know if I'd say it's a great movie, but it's a really, really fun time.
Okay, I will. I'll get to it one of these days. Cool, excellent. Well, before we kind of sign off, let's say, have we got anything to plug? Jay, have you got anything to plug that you're doing soon?
Nothing over on Blueprint Review, unless I get the disc of Rambling Rosalind.
Anywhere, yeah.
But yeah, Deep Blue Sea, the podcast, available everywhere you can find podcasts. You can follow us all over social media at Deep Blue Sea Pod. We recorded an episode on Shark Tale yesterday, the animated DreamWorks terrible film, and throughout April we're going to have episodes on USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage just came out, the Nick Cage shark film. It's not very good. The 1969 film Shark! Exclamation mark, which stars Burt Reynolds and was it was marketed based on a fictional stuntman dying by a shark. It did not happen. They tried to capitalize on the death of a stuntman, which they created.
That's kind of incredible.
It's incredible, but also just terribly bad taste.
Yeah.
And A Tank, the Bollywood shark film.
Awesome.
With an incredible shark versus helicopter sequence at the end.
Okay.
So we, of course, had Will Slater from Spinning Helicopter on to talk about that one. So that's what's coming up.
There's one in, I'm trying to remember the box set now. I'm trying to think, is it Mako Jaws of Terror or something like that? Is it?
Mako, yeah.
Have you seen that? Have you done that one yet?
It's on the list. Haven't got it yet, but it's on the list. Cool.
Is that?
I was going to say, I'm sure it's in one of those Arrow. I can't remember the name.
Came from the
yes,
that's
what I was
thinking. I think. Yeah. There it is. Yeah,
we've covered all of the good films that the sharks in, and we're working our way through the other ones at this point.
I've got to ask in relation to the podcast. You said you covered like Rennie Harlan films.
Mm-hmm.
Have you covered? I know it's not shark related at all, but have you covered? Have you covered The Adventures of Ford Fairlane?
Yes, we have. I loved it. It has an animatronic koala.
It does.
It's like, why? It's incredible. But yeah, we've covered. We've only got, I think, 3 Rennie Harlan films left. Although he has 3 Strangers films coming out this year. So we're gonna do I've never seen the first 2, so we've got 5 Strangers episodes coming up throughout this year. And that's 3 or 4 films Rennie Harlan has this year. He had The Bricklayer already.
Oh, that came out like a few months ago, didn't it? Or
yes, we've covered that. If you want to see Aaron Eckhart dispatching people with bricklaying skills, then watch The Bricklayer. It's actually pretty good.
Oh, I'd love to check it out.
He's strangles a guy with a tape measure.
I'm sold.
I need to get more watch because he's Finnish. So my wife, any film that has any involvement with like a major involvement by some kind of Finnish person, she's there. So
he only made one film in
no.
He made Born American is his only Finnish film, I think. But he's made more films in China than in Finland.
Shows where his allegiances lie.
Yes, in his wallet. But he has an eclectic career, and we love covering it.
Cool. I watched Ford Fairlane for the first time last year, and I've never been so perplexed by a film before, but it's stuck with me ever since. Like I don't know if I can say it's good, but there are moments of that film I quote on a nearly daily basis. The narration monologue where he's on top of the Capitol Records building and he starts making random noises is one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my entire life.
I mean, he's a rock and roll detective.
He is.
What more do you need? You have Freddy Krueger. What's his name?
Robert Englund.
Robert Englund we're in bondage, basically, as a bondage assassin.
And Gilbert
Gottfried as a shock jock. It's a bizarre film, and I love it. And it came out the same year as Die Hard 2.
Yeah, no, it was like the same weekend or like a week after, wasn't it? Or something.
It's like 2 weeks apart because he made one, and then he made Ford Fairlane, and then they had to really rush production on Die Hard 2. So he had to do Die Hard 2. a really diabolical production as well, where they had to bring in fake snow for this. They went everywhere there was supposed to be snow, and there was no snow. He's an unlucky filmmaker for sure. Like, the set of Deep Sea was plagued with locusts. He had literal biblical plagues on some of his films.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, sorry. That's where you can find me.
No, that's cool. Leon, what, have you got anything to plug? A Blueprint wise or
a few things, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to review them because review discs haven't arrived yet. But I'm gonna go over a couple.
Yeah, I was going to ask. There was one on my list that.
Yeah. So. Right now, in terms of the next month, I've got kind of a packed May, but look forward to these in the next month or so, because we record these every month or so. So I just figured I'd shout these out. So there's Aliens, like the UHD of Aliens, which I'm still waiting to arrive.
Don't think that will arrive because we requested True Lies, that didn't show up. We requested Avatar, that didn't show up. So I don't think it's coming.
Okay,
sorry.
That's fair. I was really interested in checking it out just on the fact that I've heard it's a really kind of botched 4K, and I kind of wanted to see it for my own eyes, but that's okay. I've thankfully my friend Brady is sending his grandma's visiting the UK on I think like April the 23rd or something, and she's bringing over a few like imports over for us, like some 4Ks, and he got me the Abyss 4K. I've never seen the Abyss. And I'm so excited to finally watch The Abyss for the first time, because that's never getting released over here. So I can't wait to finally check it out.
I managed to get hold of an old DVD of the special edition, I think, and that's all I've got.
Yeah.
I have a DVD. We covered it on Deep Sea the podcast.
Yeah, that's
outside of that, I'm still waiting. I don't know. Like I'm gonna have to ask if they're even sending it. But Basket Case, like the 4K from Arrow, I'm kind of hoping to cover that if they send it, because usually Arrow are really good for sending out discs almost months in advance. I got the Withnail and I 4K today. Like that arrived, and that's not out for months. So hopefully Basket Case will arrive. But if not, there's that. And then the Dreamers, that's another 4K that I'm kind of holding out hope for them actually arriving. the only discs I have right now that I can actually cover are Raging Bull, the Criterion, they sent the Blu-ray over, and Withnail and I. They're the only two that have arrived so far. So I'm holding out hope that some of the others. Oh, and of course, I requested a screen for this like yesterday. But the Beast from Bertrand Bonello, I think that's his name. Yes, I watched that last night. I can't say anything. I'm embargoed for a month. But review for that coming up soon.
Cool.
Yeah, no, that was my first film from him, and it was interesting. I guess I can say that. But yeah, I got some reviews coming up, and I'm hoping, I don't know when, but I'm hoping to do another installment in my What Went Wrong series that I've started, where I'm gonna basically covered like troubled films with either troubled productions or just really, really, really bad general receptions, and ask what went wrong, why do people dislike these. The first one I did was the 2010 Elm Street remake, which I think is terrible, but I kind of wanted to examine why it was so terrible, so kind of did a bit of a deep dive into that. I don't know what the next one's going to be. I'm thinking it's super contemporary, but I just think it's fascinating in general. I might cover Madam Web, that new Sony movie, the kind of Spider-Man one. It's so bad, but it's endlessly fascinating. And it seems to have like the worst production I've ever seen in a like modern studio blockbuster. So it's something that I'm really... I really want to dive into, but the difficult thing about this is I don't want to just make like a 2,000 word piece where I'm like crapping on some film. I want to actually kind of examine it and be kind of fair to the film and like dive into what went wrong, instead of just being like, this film bad, you know? So I'm trying to like look at it in a, I don't know if I want to say objective way, but kind of objective way, you know, just like kind of diving into production. And finally, I'm just going to plug it because I posted it yesterday. I posted a review for the new Alex Garland film Civil War, which I didn't like very much. And if you want to hear my thoughts on that, it's over blueprintreview.co.uk, the podcast, the website for the podcast you're currently listening to. I'd be surprised if anybody's listening to this but they don't know who Blueprint is.
You never know. Probably not.
But yeah, that's about it. I feel like I plugged a lot. I'm sorry.
No, that's plenty. Yeah, plug away. As for myself, I am actually I'm got something something new. I mean, as usual, I'm churning out reviews of stuff. I won't even list them all. But what I will say is that I'm branching out a little bit, which is probably incredibly foolish because I've always got way too many screens to review. But I've put my name down to review a video game for a change.
Ooh.
I've been gaming a lot more recently. I've got 2 kids and they got a Switch, and I play it way more than they do. But I play my PC a bit more these days. And I put my name down to review Turbo Kid the game because the film is loads of fun. And I saw the trailer for the game. I was like, this game looks awesome. I was like, let's go for it. I'm gonna push the boat out and I'm gonna review a game. So I've been spending the only thing I've realized is that and this is a Metroidvania kind of game, so it's quite big. So I was a bit foolish maybe because I was thinking, oh yeah, just like a movie, I'll just play it a few times and I can review it. But it's like I kind of feel like I should finish it or at least get close to finishing it. I'm way off. I've spent like 3 hours. I'm like, oh no, it's going to take forever. Well, it's a really cool game, so I am enjoying it. But I just need to. What I've been doing is after I've watched the film, I'll go upstairs and quickly play for about an hour. And this must be a plus point for the game because I keep saying, oh, I'll play for like 45 minutes or something. I always end up playing an extra half an hour because it's quite addictive. So you've got that to look forward to. And away from Blueprint Review, I've been doing quite a few podcasts lately. I don't know when these are all going out though. So I think I plugged one of them last week, and don't think it's still out yet. But I've been on the Movie Rob Minute, speaking about Died with a Vengeance. But I don't think that's going to go out for a little while.
That's not started yet. I think
no. I'm one of the first. I'm an early week.
I'm the first week. I'm always the first week, and that's going out the 29th of April.
All right. Okay.
So yeah.
I think I'm a bit further down. I'm like week. Right. Yeah.
I'm always the first 5 and the last 1 minute of all of his series. I don't know why. I don't mind, but
it's a good opener. It's got a good opening, that film, so it's quite good.
It does. Yeah, just like my week ends with just the most hungover person in the world, Bruce Willis in that film. Just kind of in a puddle on the floor of a van.
I'd say what I might be the second week then. I'm trying to think because I'm. Oh no, it might be just afterwards. I've got the sandwich board bit, so I'm probably the week after that.
Oh God, you've got that's a hard week. Okay,
luckily I'm in the week just after you see what's written on the sandwich board.
Sure.
I've avoided some interesting conversations. So I've done that. I've also been. Well, I mentioned this last month. I've been on the Fight Club Minute, and I don't think I don't think I've aired yet. I think he does it way in advance.
My weeks are coming out this week.
Okay. Cool. And also I'm going to be I'm recording the Lambcast on this Sunday, and doing the Decade Look Back show looking at 1967. And I've already put my name down for the 1998 episode. I try and do the Decade Look Backs every time because, again, like this, it gives me an excuse to kind of work through some films, and it gives me an excuse to work through some films I might not usually think about because you've got a specific goal. I'm like 1967. What can I watch? And it gets me. I love doing those shows because I get to pick out some weird, random stuff that I can watch. So plenty to plug. Busy as usual.
Do you know why they're called the Decade Look Back when it's a specific year?
No. I don't know. I wondered that.
I've not been on one.
No.
I've not asked Richard.
I don't understand that either. I could ask. He's not on the show this time. I think Howard's taken over because Richard's away. But yeah, it is weird. Although I was considering because I kind of I was considering suggesting he do some really earlier cinema episodes that focus on a decade, because I think if you did
the 1900s, 1910.
No, maybe not that early, but I mean, at least like the
Journey
30s.
to the Moon.
Yeah, I just think at least like the 30s or something, because there's some really good films like in the 30s. But I think if you picked up a specific year, there are less that are available and well known, so people are just talking about the same films. But if you talk about the whole decade, there's a lot of good stuff, and I don't know. I'd love to venture back a bit further because I like my classics. But I don't know. I might throw that in there, and then it would actually work with the decade look back.
I'd always thought like maybe he'll be like 20 years ago from now or something. So it would be 2004, but like 1967 is just a number. I don't know. But whatever, it's his show.
Don't know. It's a fun show. It's a fun show. But yeah, cool. So that's that. That is us. That is us done. Thank you both of you for showing up and recording with me. And and we'll be hopefully back in a month-ish, whenever is a good evening. And we'll see who's up for it. And
Awesome.
have another episode for you all to listen to. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thank you.
listening.
Awesome. Thank you.
And good night.
Bye.